Okay, so hey guys, um, I'm going to start back from the top, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about why in-season training. Thanks for tuning in. Um, it's obvious that things can become difficult once the season is the off season is over. Uh, Games, practices, and tournaments, school exams, hectic schedules, summer travel schedule. All these things come into play, which makes it hard to get to the gym because most primarily because of school and because the guys are playing baseball. But it's important to understand that once their power output and strength declines, the body begins to compensate all the way up the chain, and this sacrifices overall performance. Training residuals are the adaptations that it takes to become an athlete and to play baseball successfully. That is your aerobic endurance ability, which is your recovery, your maximal strength, your ability to produce power, which is your ability to express that strength quickly, your ability to produce power over and over again, and your actual speed. This is a chart by a guy named Issarin. He was a Russian Olympic coach. Most of the people in the business who know what they're talking about know this guy and know this chart. This is the adaptive qualities on the left. You can see aerobic strength and endurance, maximal strength, power, endurance, and speed. These are all the attributes that we train in the off season, and these are all the attributes you need to maintain during the baseball season. On the right-hand side, you can see that this is how long each one of these training residuals last. You have strength and endurance and maximal strength, which pretty much takes 3 to 4 weeks before you start to see a change in strength and recovery ability. But as far as speed and power goes, you've got anywhere between days to 2 weeks. And especially with speed and power endurance, you've got about a week. So it's really good that hopefully the baseball coaches are having them run sprints and having them work on speed, because that will be gone, and that will start to decline in a week. Okay, so if they're not running, if they're not doing speed work, we've included speed work finishers in our program for guys that just happen to have a really bad program that they're attached to. And the last thing they want to do is long distance running in the off season. We want sprints, not running a mile. Baseball players don't run a mile. It's a quick sport. It's a short sport. It's a short game sport. So for position players, it's not just, I know we train a lot of pitchers, but it's not just pitchers. Position players have to consider that these losses in strength equal to losses in bat speed. So what happens is guy stops training, he's losing strength. It's the end of April, beginning of May. Things start to really matter at the end of towards the middle and end of the season. He's losing strength. His bat speed is slower, and now an 85-mile-an-hour pitch feels like 88 to 90 to him because he actually can't get around. Okay. Likewise with a pitcher. A pitcher, his 88 to 89, 88 to 90 can become 86 to 88. And a guy who's a position player who's training and maintaining his strength, that will look a lot slower and more hittable. What you have is you have a pitcher who's getting tired. He's not able to maintain his velocity, but you have a position player who's able to maintain his bat speed. And now what happens is it's a lot easier to hit this guy. So it's on both sides of the coin. Losses in running speed, simply continuing to do sprint work at practice and games. That's important so you don't lose that speed complex, but it's going to make them tired. And unless lower body strength is maintained, it's going to cause injuries, hamstring pulls, lower back injuries, knee problems. So as far as arm health goes, although they're not pitchers, position players, especially infielders and center fielders, they really have to, they throw hard and they throw consistently, especially third and short. So losses in strength and mobility will compromise throwing velocity for the infielders and outfielders as well. So this is a graph by a physical therapist, really brilliant guy named Mike Reinold. Okay, and you can see this is your strength capacity on the left side. Okay, and this is your course of the season. This is where we really start to notice when a player comes in and he is hitting a certain exit velocity, or he's at a certain velo, or his running speed is at a certain rate. And then once that drops 20% and he's lost 20% of what he's gained in the off season, this is where low performance starts to be really noticeable. And also really, really higher risk of injury, because what's going to happen to a kid is when he starts losing his velocity, he's not going to go back into the gym at first. He's going to try to arm the ball. Kids are going to do whatever they can do to get the velocity back up again. And now what they're doing is, the reason that's happening is they're losing their lower half power. And when they lose their lower half power, they have to try to make it up with their arm. And that's why guys' arms hurt a lot in the middle to the end of the in season. It's not because of it's partially because of overuse, but it's also because of they're using too much of their arm in their mechanics, because they've begun to lose their lower half. If they stay strong, they will not have to overuse their arm. They'll continue to produce force in the lower half and transfer it to their arm, as well as hitters. If they don't lose their lower half, when they block with their front leg, they will actually produce force, and they won't be throwing their lower bodies out and their lower backs out and getting oblique strains. So these are key factors to not let this, what we call a controlled fall. Okay. Baseball, playing the game of baseball doesn't make you stronger. It makes you weaker. And simply thinking that you're going to stop lifting weights and get stronger is going to not affect you and not make you affect your play is just crazy. Because if you look at how hard our guys threw when they came in and how hard they're throwing now because they started strength training and it's gone up, what makes you think it's going to stay up? If you stop, it's going to go down. And this is something that we've been trying to get this across for years. And this controlled fall this is kind of the scenario that we see over and over again. Kid comes in November, he's lifting. December, he's going up. January, he's going up. Off season, there's the throwing velocity. It's up. Throwing velocity generally peaks around the end of April. Your guys, whatever they're throwing now, or whatever their exit velocity is now, when you factor in the weather, and you factor in the competitive and the adrenaline rush of live batters and pitchers and live games, everything goes up. And we generally see peaks. A lot of times guys will come in and go, wow, man, my velo is not up as much as I thought it was. And then we hear from them in April, the middle of April, and like, wow, my velo is up. Okay, so that's good. And that April, that's the 6-week mark. That's generally when we just watch it start to decline off a cliff. Okay. And that's that month I told you, where it takes about a month from March 1st to May 1st, middle of April, it'll start to decline, and it will become noticeable right at the end of April, beginning of May, and it will start to go down. And if they continue, which most kids will do, continue to go into summer ball, we're basically, by the time we get to August, we're going to, and this is being kind. Generally, we'll see kids, if they're not injured in August, they'll be almost down where they started in November. So what happens is you have a 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old kid, and he's building himself up, and he's great. And then he just stops here training. He rides the wave a little bit, and then he slowly, throughout the summer, he gets that controlled fall. And then what happens is next year he comes back in October, September, and we have to bring him back up from here again. Instead of getting him to here, maintaining that. Doesn't even have to, it's going to naturally get better. But if we can just maintain this, then what's going to happen is through the summer, keep working out. And I'm talking about 2 days a week. I'm not talking about coming here 5 days a week. 2 days a week. We can start again in September up here. And now we're going to we're going to create the same stepwise progress, but we're going to start from a higher point instead of being on that seesaw. Any questions so far? Great. In season is basically recruiting and scouting season, and athletes need to perform at their best throughout. Guys are coming to see them play. Coaches are watching film. Playing baseball makes you better at the technical side of playing baseball. I'm going to say this over and over again in this presentation. It does not help you get stronger. It does not make you more explosive. It does not make you more powerful. Maintaining your strength is the only thing that does that. You're basically wearing yourself out if you're not lifting. So for pitchers, topics to consider. Pitchers generally lose approximately 10 degrees of IR after each outing, mostly due to tightness in the posterior cuff from throwing and repeatedly decelerating their arm. Okay, so after that, if they do not get in the gym and we do not work on good arm care with them during the in season, we need to get that IR back before they throw again next week. Okay, if not, some of it comes back naturally, but it doesn't come all the way back. And so what happens is we slowly start to lose internal rotation throughout the course of the season. And once again, we get to that controlled fall, we get to end of April, beginning of May, and you're gonna see the guys on your team, the players on your son's team. You're going to see that I keep talking about the end of April, the beginning of May. This is when it happens, and you're gonna see that I'm not kidding. This is when it's almost like clockwork. Kids come in, parents come in, and all of a sudden the kid's got a UCL strain and he's out for the summer. Now he can't go, and he can't be seen by coaches. So this really, really confuses the recruiting process, because you feel like you want the kid to play baseball so he can be seen. But if he's not in shape and he hurts himself, he can't be seen. So you're kind of cutting your nose to spite your face. So just remember, throwing a baseball helps increase arm speed and endurance, but gains won't be maintained unless you're also maintaining your strength. So max strength, power, and power endurance. They're the three things that do not get trained in the sport of baseball enough to maintain those qualities throughout an entire season. You are not strength training when you're playing baseball. You are not power training and using weighted jumps when you're playing baseball. Everything is body weight. You're swinging a 30-ounce bat. You're throwing a 5-ounce baseball. There is no weight. It's the game. We're playing the game of baseball. And that's where the technical ability comes in. But as a result, you need to be trained weekly in the weight room, whereas speed is usually addressed in practice with sprint work, like I said. And I really, really hope that the coaches are at least doing that. To create a successful in-season program, the first step is to understand, and I highlighted this. This is the only thing I highlighted in the whole presentation, because it really is, nothing could sum it up more. The attributes that playing the game helps develop are different from what the athlete needs to be able to consistently perform them at a high level. So playing baseball makes you good at playing baseball, but if your technical ability is only going to be able to shine through if it can be performed at a high level, and that takes an athletic body, a strong and recovered body. These are the things that are big players in baseball: mobility, core strength, max strength, power, and power endurance. And to be quite honest with you, this has nothing to do with baseball. This has to do with every sport. This is basically the four things that drive almost every sport. These are the things you need to have. First of all, mobility. Athletes don't just get hurt in season because they lose strength. They generally get hurt also because they're losing that IR. Their backs are getting tight. They're overhacking with their upper body because they're losing the lower half. The amount of sitting during games, and we all know, you know what? Baseball season's supposed to start in March, but they don't play in March. They're shoveling the field, and they're sitting around. A lot of games are canceled. It's still cold. So the amount of sitting and standing during games can be a real factor for losses in mobility. And not to mention, we have to combine that with the fact that our kids are always on the phone. They're sitting in kyphotic positions all day, in school, at home, at night, in bed, looking at their phones in kyphotic positions. And then they go and they play baseball, and half the game, they're in the dugout sitting in kyphotic positions. Sitting is the new smoking. That's like there's a great book out called Sitting is the New Smoking. And it's a great read if you want to read something. Our kids sit a lot. They sit in bad positions a lot. They sit with their necks down, their heads down. It's everything that you need to reverse to throw a baseball and hit a baseball. So If mobility is impaired, if we know anything about throwing a baseball, if mobility is impaired, velocity and control will be compromised as well. And this can present itself anywhere on the body. But for our guys, we notice guys start to get cranky hips. Their T-spines get tight. The shoulder mobility and stability obviously is the worst. So let's go through these. T-spine. In a rotational sport, maintaining T-spine mobility is king. Okay? Yeah. Somebody say something? Okay. So maintaining T-spine mobility is king. Glenohumeral mobility, stability, requires movement back into the scapula after throwing. If the T-spine is not rotating properly, the rib cage gets out of position. That puts the ball and socket in bad positions, or it puts the arms in bad positions to swing. The hips can get a bit gritty from sprinting as well as posting up and continually rotating into that front hip, continually rotating, and also continually rotating to primarily one side all season. When in our the following exercises in our in-season program that address all of the above. So here we have for strengthening the legs in a unilateral position. These are just some examples of what we'll do. I tell him to deliver the hand with the hips. Use your hips to deliver the hand. Don't use the arm. Core. Everyone talks about the core, and rightfully so. The core has a positive impact on your breathing. The core has a positive impact on your endurance, how well you can maintain hip and shoulder separation so you don't swing early, take early cuts, and get burned on breaking balls or off-speed pitches. It allows you to get to deliver and get more extension and get out front and hold your core, hold your upper body out front longer so we can get better perceived velocity, and the hitter sees the ball later. It helps transfer the force. It's the conduit between the upper body, the arm, and the lower body. The core, this sling right here, this fascial sling, this core, this is what transfers the force coming from the lower body up into the arm. So that's your throwing velo and running speed. Reduce the risk of injury, such overuse injuries in season as low back pain and even shoulder problems. Everything centers around the core. So some of the things we'll do is in season is we'll work on them transferring body weight from a hip hinge position in the floor, transfer through, up through the core and into the point of extension, or that could be throwing, that could be jumping, that could be swinging. We're just really trying to get them used to transferring body force production from the ground force from the ground up through the core and into the upper body and eventually the arm. Strength and power. More is not always better. Balancing the volume of your strength and mobility training with practices and games is crucial. So our strength training programs in season, these are 30 to 35-minute strength training programs. 2 sets of the exercises that they're doing 4 sets of in the off season. We're not trying to get stronger, although I will tell you some athletes actually get stronger. They continue to get stronger through the in-season. But it's 2 sets of every exercise instead of 4. It's literally half the amount of time they're here. It's roughly 10 to 14 sets worth of work. You add up their warm-up, you're talking about 50 minutes. Our guys are usually here for about an hour and a half. It's usually 50 minutes. Stuff like hip bridges, we're not deadlifting. We're not deadlifting in season because we want to take all the weight out of the arms, take stress off the scap, take stress off the rib cage, the lats, and the elbow. So as a result, we work the posterior chain and the lower half with hip bridging. This way, we're leaving the upper body alone. No long distance running. And hopefully the coaches of your kids' baseball team are not making them run miles as punishment or not making them run a mile to show how tough they are. This is the most archaic and antiquated way of training. If you look at that guy right there, if he tried to throw a baseball, his arm would fly into the stands. He just doesn't have the muscle on his body to actually produce enough force to throw a baseball or swing. And he probably can't run very fast, but he can run forever. And long distance running is a sport unto itself. It's like powerlifting. Powerlifters, they don't have to do it fast. Doesn't matter how long it takes them to get the deadlift up. As long as they lift it, the guy who lifts the most weight wins. It's a slow strength sport. Long distance running is a slow sport. You know, you have to run long distances, hours, 2 hours at a time. Okay. This is a repetitive use injury waiting to happen. We don't run more than 20 seconds with our guys ever in the entire year. Having them run a 5, 6, 7, 8 minute mile is just so much pounding on their joints and their spine for what they do that it's ridiculous. And honestly, I can't think of any sport except long distance running where you have to run a mile. Soccer, I was a soccer player. I never ran. When I played soccer, I never ran for more than 10 seconds. I might run 10 seconds and walk, 10 seconds and walk, 10 seconds and walk, 20 seconds, 5 seconds, 1 second. If you watch a soccer game, you'll never see, they don't just blow the whistle and everybody just starts running. So you got to train to the sport. So we get good at what we practice, and baseball players should sprint. And that's what we do in our in-season. Here's a quick study of what not to do. And this case study, this should say case studies, because I've had this business for 15 years, and there's 5 of these guys every year. There's 5 of these guys every year. And I know 1 or 2 guys, 3 guys that this is going to happen to. But you know who it doesn't happen to? It doesn't happen to this guy anymore, because once it happens to you, you see the fear of God is in them, and they train in season. So here's a quick story on what not to do. Last winter, and every winter, one of our uncommitted pitchers, a lefty, ended up the offseason in March and never returned until August. This is what happens. Pitching lab's over. They get into the season. They say they don't have time. They say they'll do it at home. They do a half-ass workout with their dad at the gym, or they go and they do the really bunked out training that they have at the school. At the time of his departure, he was throwing 84, and he was getting looks. Upon return in August, he was down 78 to 80 miles per hour and still seeking a commitment. His velo should have remained at 84 to 85, and some guys even, it goes up. According to his assessment in August, his weight was down 12 pounds when he got back, 30% loss in shoulder IR, 20% loss in T-spine mobility, and this happens every single year. These guys will come back. They look like deer that got lost in the woods. And for you guys who have kids who have been playing baseball for a while, you start to realize you don't work out in the off season, and then you go into summer ball and you're playing multiple games in the heat, and you're staying in hotels, and they're eating bad food, and they're sleeping in cars, and they're, it's just it's a bad look to become athletic. And this is the other reason, spending 4 to 6 months in the off season to increase body weight, mobility, strength, and power, it's a big investment. You guys pay a lot of money. Training is not cheap. So you owe it to yourself to continue with an effective in-season program, because you're just going to watch everything that your son has built. It will start to decline, and it will start to decline. There will be outliers who maybe it won't. That's a really risky pair of dice to roll, but it will trail off. And we see it over and over again. And the best performers excel late in the season. And there couldn't be a better time for you to maintain your athleticism from March to May than in May and June, when everybody's playing for playoffs, and the team that's got the most guys on their team that A, aren't injured, and B, are as strong as they were in March, that's the team that's going to win. So some closing remarks. Maintaining and even increasing strength in season is paramount to combating overuse and dropping velos. If you guys respect anything that I have to say, I'm just going to say this is the last time I'm going to say it. Your son's exit velocity and your son's throwing velocity is going to go up from right now, from tomorrow to the middle of April. It is going to go up, and then it's going to go down if he doesn't continue. He's not going to tell you, but it's going to go down. And then he's going to start compensating, and he's going to start saying his arm bothers him, or his back bothers him, or his shoulder bothers him. So in-season workouts are not as time intensive. It's quick. You don't have to come 5 days a week. You're looking at 5 90-minute days that you do in the off season. It's a lot of time. You know what I mean? It's respectable too. That's 7.5 hours a week. It goes down to 3 hours a week, two at 1 hour sessions, 3 1 hour sessions. It's less than half the amount of time. And if you want to continue to be your best in July and August, in-season training is the way that you're going to go into the summer the same way. Because what happens in the in-season, in the spring, it's double in the summer because of the heat and because of dehydration and traveling and travel ball. It's just all of the above. Our spring programs, a little bit about our spring programs. They're 12-week spring program commitment. The new program, there's a new program every 4 weeks, just like there is all year round. Suggested participation, like I said, is 2 to 3 times a week. One is better than nothing, but a little better than nothing. But it is better than nothing. For older athletes, 16 and older, flexible hours. You could come in Sundays. We're open Sundays to accommodate. Maybe if a kid wants to come in 2 days a week, we know he's playing baseball on Saturday. We know he's playing during the week. If he can come in on a Sunday, that means he only has to come in 1 day a week during the school year. And I'm going to tell you, if he comes in on a Wednesday and he comes in on a Sunday, comes in on a Thursday, comes in on a Sunday, a Tuesday, and a Sunday, he's going to maintain everything that he had in March, and he's going to keep it the whole time. For younger athletes, our 13 to 16-year-olds, we open those classes up, and we don't start them at 3:45 anymore. We start them at 6, 7, and 8 because we know they're coming back from practice. So what you might want to, and Sundays, again, 11, 12, and 1. So once again, your little guy, he wants to come in on a Sunday, take an 11 or a 12 or a 1 o'clock class. He only needs to come in at 6 or 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, 1 night a week. And he can come twice. He can come as much as he wants, but as long as he's not training back-to-back days. These are the prices. In-strength training is $199 a month. It's a lot cheaper because you're not coming as much. In-season strength training plus tune-ups. So you can do in-season strength at $199. If you add in 2 pitching or hitting lessons for a month, it's $349. If you add 3 hitting or pitching lessons, it's $399. We're not adding 4 pitching or hitting. We're not even adding 3 pitching or hitting. We're just adding pretty much hitting, 3 pitching sessions, and 4 pitching sessions is a little bit much, being that they're playing baseball. But these are, it incrementally goes up as we use more tune-ups. Fielding sessions are to be determined, and there's a 3-month commitment from March to May, and you don't have to pay it all at once. There's 3 recurring payments, and that's it. Questions, guys? Wow, that's great.
Yeah, I have a question, Nunzio. So on basically can you go pull back to the screen before this one? Where it said for the athletes 16 and older, you said given the hectic spring schedule, monthlies can train in-house, remote, or both hybrid.
What that means is they can be given a program, comes complete with video as our remote. We have a lot of kids who train. We have kids in Pittsburgh. We have kids in California that do remote training with us. They get their program every month via the internet on our portal on their phone. Your kid, if he wants to, he can train. He could come in-house. He can train at a gym. Like I said before, a lot of guys are training at a gym, but they're going in with their dad who might, not know what he's doing about training overhead athletes and rotational athletes, or he's doing it at the school. Here, he can do it at the gym. And if he's a 16 and older kid, he's already been in our program. So he knows kind of how the flow of our training sessions go. So he'll get it on his phone. And what happens is he can train hybrid, which means he can come in-house when he wants, and he could train at home when he wants. I will tell you, I would highly recommend, if you're going to do hybrid training, get him to come one of those days a week. Get him to come in so he can get eyes on him in the weight room. If he's doing something wrong, somebody's going to tell him that he's doing something wrong. If he just stays away and just trains at Planet Fitness 2-3 days a week, you know, I can't then tell you why he comes in and his back's hurting. I don't know what he's doing there, but if he's doing our program and there's video, this is just another way monthlies can be trained, remote. You don't have to, like we were saying, we tried to figure out how can we do this and make it easier for the guys who just simply cannot get here. So we kind of treat them like somebody who lives far away. But if you have if you're lucky enough to be close to a facility like this and you don't take advantage of it at least once a week, that's pretty crazy. But yes, absolutely. That makes it able for a kid to maybe come in 1 or 2 times a week with us, makes him able to train 3 times a week. You know what I mean? 4 times a week if he wants to. Tells us how many days he wants. There is no extra fee for a 16 and older kid if he wants to train twice a week, 3 times a week, or 4 times a week. It's monthly. He comes in as much as he wants. We suggest 2 to 3 times a week just because we know that it's harder. Professional baseball players train 5-6 days a week while in season, but we're dealing with kids who are in school. We're dealing with a different animal. We're dealing with a higher level athlete. So 2 to 3 times a week will suffice and will prove to be exponentially better than what anyone else is doing who's not training.
I got you. Perfect. Thank you. Perfect.
Yeah, that was a good question, man. I should have brought that up. Anybody else?
Yes, Nunzio, quick question. So how about if your son is pitching and hitting, like, is the training different? How does that work? Like, maybe you can shed some light on that.
Okay, so the position players and the pitchers, they're the only difference in their programs are the arm care. There's a little bit more arm care for pitchers than there is for position players, but we're in season. We're not making a difference between a pitcher and a position player. The one difference is we will tell them, listen, you got to, with pitchers, we got to base your training around your bullpen. Like, we don't have to really do that too much with a position player, but if a guy's getting ready to throw a pen or he's starting or he's pitching that day, we need to know when we need to tell him, okay, listen, if you know you're throwing, the next day you get in here and you accommodate all that stress and you consolidate all that stress into a 24-hour period. So that way you have a longer amount of time before you have to throw again to recover. You don't want to pitch, wait 3 days to lift, and then you're lifting the day before you pitch again. You want to pitch and then lift. I tell guys, yo, if you pitched today, if you can get in here tonight, that's even better, or tomorrow. And then in the next 24 hours, he's got one of his lift days out of the way and his bullpen. And now he's got 2 or 3 days before he has to do the pitch again. And if he pitches again, the next day he pitches again, and there's your 2 days. So yes, the only difference between training position players and pitchers in season when throwing begins is that you really have to make sure that the kids understand there is a time, and Sundays work great because a lot of kids, especially in the summer, a lot of kids are playing ball on Saturday, and Sunday is a beautiful time to come in and lift.
Thank you.
Sure. Anybody else?
Can you just please put up the last slide? I just want to take yeah, thank you.
Wait, I'm sorry.
And so this is flexible, right? Because obviously our son who's going to be a freshman, we don't know what the practice schedule, dates, times, or any of that kind of is.
He's a freshman, so he's going to be in the classes, right? Correct? He's what is he, 15, 14?
He's 15U. Yeah, Hudson's 15U.
Right. So he could take the classes. The classes are at 6, 7, and 8. And they're every day of the week, except for Saturdays. Okay. Except for Saturdays.
Yeah. Okay.
So he can come any day he wants.
Okay. So yeah. But obviously,
the whole
schedules and things like that.
The whole premise behind in-season training is the flexibility, because everybody's pitching on a different day. Everybody's got games on a different day. Everybody's off on a different day. If we try to say this is the days that we do this, we'll be gypping half the people. And you have to be able to come and go as your schedule allows you, and just make sure you know, if you're a pitcher, you need to do that the day you after the same day after you pitch, or the next day, and consolidate that stress. Other than that, you can come in as much as you want, and your 16-year-old kids, they're able to, once they're cleared to train on their own, they can sign up for the hybrid training. Generally, that's the sophomores, juniors, and seniors that have been with us, that are in the other weight room. And that becomes really easy. They can come whenever they want, and they can, even if they want, they can get it sent on their phone to them. Anybody else? Is everybody done with it? I'm going to stop sharing so I can look here. Okay, great. We will be sending out tomorrow. We're going to send a sign-up forms along with the recording of this Zoom. So I recorded this for the people that couldn't be on. Obviously, there's probably another 40 people that would like to watch this. So we're going to send it out to our email list, and we're going to send it out with sign-up forms. I really, guys, I do this every year because it's important for my business that my kids go out and they excel. It's important for you as your kid, as the father or mother of your kid, that your kid excels, because a happy kid is a happy family. So it's like, and if they want to play baseball in college, they need to get exponentially better as they're going. The biggest game changer between a freshman high school kid and a Division I college athlete is their size. Because if you look at a Division I college athlete, even a Division II college athlete, or even sometimes a Division III, not much, and you look at the difference between a Division I college athlete and a professional athlete, there is no difference in athleticism. That's the difference in technical ability. Okay, if these guys, a lot of these guys that I assess in college, they are already stronger than a lot of professional guys. These guys are just elite movers, and they play the game better. But when you look at high school kids to college, you could play the game great. But to get into college, you got to look like this. And it's, unfortunately, you got to throw a certain velocity. Hopefully that's starting to change, and pitching matters too. But you got to throw a certain velocity, and you got to project at a certain size. And it doesn't mean this way. It's athleticism. Marcus Stroman is 5'7". He's a professional pitcher, where most guys are 6'2". He's 5'7", 5'6", maybe even. He's just strong as an ox, and he's really athletic. So I try to tell kids all the time, don't let your height, just become the greatest athlete that you can become. It will show. And it looks, and it also, a healthy body and an athletic body is a more confident looking body. And that projects to a coach before they've even talked to the kid. As soon as they see him on the field, just looks more confident. He looks like he's going to be a better baseball player. So I really try to preach this, because I watch people drop the ball yearly. And it's really, I get it. It's busy. It's more money. We try to make it a lot cheaper, and we try to make it so you can come in whenever you want. But that's it. Going. Any questions?